Today we're looking at Jumanji. An interesting concept of a film that had a lot of promise, but does it hold up? Let's find out. Before we get into the review, here's a few fun facts. Number 1, this film was directed by Joe Johnston, who would go on to direct Jurassic Park 3 6 years later. And speaking of Jurassic Park, there's a lot of similar sound effects used for some of the animals. The elephants used some of the T-Rex sound effects, while the rhinos used some of the raptor sound effects. Mainly the grunting for the rhinoceros. For the lion, some of its growling sound effects would later be used for Sully from Monsters, Inc. Now that I got those fun facts out of the way, let's move on to the review. So the movie takes place in 1969 and centers around a little boy named Alan Parrish. Throughout his life, he's been picked on by the town, and he doesn't have the best relationship with his father. He invites one of his only friends, Sarah Whittle, to play a game that he found called Jumanji. But as they play with the board, there's something strange going on. The little circle in the middle tells you what event is going to take place next, and it ends up happening. And one of those messages is, "In the jungle you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8. Alan ends up getting sucked into the board game, while Sarah gets chased away by a bunch of bats. The movie then cuts to 26 years later, when two kids named Judy, played by a young Kirsten Dunst, and Peter, played by Bradley Pierce, move into the house with their Aunt Nora. The parents tragically died in a skiing accident. The two come across the board game and they start playing it themselves. Each time one of them rolls, something mysterious happens. When one of them rolls the dice, a pair of giant mosquitoes attack them. When the other one rolls, a group of monkeys trash the kitchen. It isn't until one of the rolls summons a frickin' lion that the kids realize that this game is cursed. They are of course cornered by the lion, but rescued by an unknown man. The man is none other than an adult Alan, played now by Robin Williams. Now free from the board game, Alan immediately goes to search for his parents. Unfortunately, they passed away sometime between 1969 and 1995. Alan then gives himself a haircut and reluctantly agrees to help the kids finish the game. However, in order to finish the game, they need help from a fourth player. Cue Bonnie Hunt, who plays the adult Sarah Whittle. Apparently, she was in a mental institution for the last 26 years after what happened to Alan. After some convincing, she too reluctantly agrees to help the group finish the game. During the game, they fight off a giant carnivorous plant, a bounty hunter named Van Pelt, who is played by the same guy who plays Alan's father, as well as survive a stampede of rhinoceros, zebras, and elephants, which appear a total of 3 times in the movie. They also come across a police officer named Officer Carl Bentley, who back in 1969 was a shoemaker that worked for the Parrish family. Carl later on meets up with Aunt Nora, whose car was totaled after a monkey got into the car while she was watching the stampede. And after Carl's police car is taken by living vines, he and Aunt Nora are forced to get back to the house on foot. And after a final confrontation with Van Pelt, Alan wins the game and everything goes back to normal. And Alan and Sarah end up back in 1969. Alan then turns his life around by reconciling with his father. The film then jumps back to 1995, where Alan and Sarah are now a couple. And they officially meet Judy and Peter for the first time. Alan and Sarah also managed to stop Judy and Peter's parents from going on the ski trip, so now the accident never took place. The film ends with 2 women walking along the beach when they hear a strange sound. And that was Jumanji, and honestly it was a really good movie. Even though the CGI is outdated, I still had a lot of fun with it. The characters are great and the story is compelling, and overall, I give this film a 7 out of 10.